Hi everybody, it's another episode of Ms. Primosch's Art Cart. This week we're going to work on a still life. A still life is a collection of objects that you put together that you draw from observation. So let's start with that now. So I have here set up a collection of objects. I have a buoy, I have a coffee cup, I have another buoy, I have a magic 8-ball, and I have a little tea box. You'll notice that a lot of these objects are reminiscent of the 6 3D objects we learned. We've got a bit of a cone and a cylinder. We have a cylinder. We have a rectangular prism with a pyramid / triangular prism. We've got an inverted cylinder in here. We have a sphere, and we have a prism. So a lot of these objects represent what we learned. So what am I going to do? I'm going to draw what I see. I'm going to render these objects. I'm going to add shading, and we're going to see how this turns out. So let's do that now. Okay, so you're not going to be able to see exactly from my perspective because you're looking from the top. I'm looking a little closer to the side here. So I'm going to start with the tea box here. So I've got, actually I already made a mistake. I've got an angled square, and then we're going to bring those 3 lines down, close it off, close it off. Actually, this should be up a little bit more. Okay, so I'm just going to mark that in. Then next to it I've got my buoy, which starts off like a triangle with a flattened top, but then goes down into a rectangular prism. Now I've got this face here done. Now I need some angled lines for the side. Okay, and then I can see the hole for the rope, which is an inverted cylinder. And then the rope or line, we say line when we're talking about nautical things, those are cylinders. Okay, so now behind the small tea box is the 8-ball, which is a sphere. So I'm going to add the sphere. Let's fix this a little bit. Actually, I've made the sphere too big. Let's make it a little smaller. There we go. That's better. Okay, that's much better. Okay, so behind the sphere, I've got this buoy, which starts off like a very round cone, but then comes down behind the sphere. Coming up next to the buoy, I've got the cylinder of a coffee cup. Okay, so there I've marked out where all the shapes go. Now what do I need to do? I need to add my details. So the corners of this tee box are actually rounded off. So I'm going to go back in and round off those corners. Now there's a little lid here. So I'm going to indicate the lid, which comes out a little bit. And then we've got the rounded corners of the bottom. Okay, I've got a little label here. Okay, now behind it I've got the Magic 8 Ball, which has the white circle with the number 8 on top. Okay, and then my other buoy, my wooden buoy, has some stripes on it. So I'll put those stripes in. But I'm going to spend more time on this when I actually add the color. Okay, we've got a line on the other buoy. So what am I going to do now? Now I'm going to add my shading. I'm actually going to add my shading before I add my color, so I get the shading right. So the light is coming from here. That puts this side of the box in shadow. So I'm going to add the shadow. There's a little lip of the lid, and there's a little lip at the bottom. Okay. Now, the Magic 8 Ball is really challenging because it's shiny, but it's also showing a light source. So I've got the darkness kind of coming this way. So I'm going to add my shadow going along the bottom of the 8 ball. And the 8 ball kind of has a seam. And comes up right here. Okay. Alright, so now I've got some shadow to deal with. Let's come back over here to the buoy. Now I'm looking more carefully at the buoy, and it's got rounded edges. So let's round those edges down a little bit. Okay, so we've got some shadow happening here, happening here. So let's add that. Let's make that a little rounder here. No, it's not like that. Yes, it is like that. I'm confused. It's more like that. Okay. So we're going to shade that side there. And a little up here. And then we've got a lot of shadow in where the line is coming through. Now, the line itself also has shadow on it. Okay, now there's kind of this little shade here. There's like a beveled edge to it. So let's add that in. Darker. Okay, so now we've got a real challenge here with the coffee cup, because the coffee cup is like, it's metal. So the light is reflecting on it in a really interesting way. So I've got the inside here. I've got to get the inside right. It's got the grooves for the lid to go in. So now I need to shade around those. Okay, I've got this lip happening here. Okay, now I've got some real shading to do just on that lip. It's dark there. But then there's a little reflection. And then there's another reflection. Okay, let me make this a little more defined. Okay, so now I've got a lot of darkness coming down in a line, and then it gets much darker. And then it gets lighter. Then it gets darker again. And then much lighter. Okay, so there's the coffee cup. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the buoy. The buoy seems to have some shadow from the cup and from this buoy. So I'm going to have to work with that. And there's a little cylinder, inverted cylinder at the top. It's the hole. Okay. So there's some shadow here. And then we've got the shadow being thrown by the coffee cup. And then I've got the shadow from this buoy coming down here. Okay, so there's my basic shading and shapes. What we're going to do now is we're going to add color to it. So we're going to add color on top of that. So I'm going to start with the red of the biggest buoy. Going right over where I shaded. Now there's some reflections of light, which means I'm just going to not shade that part in. Color that part in. See? Okay, so there's the red. Okay, now we're going to add the black of the Magic 8-Ball. Now there's also some areas of reflection in the Magic 8-Ball. So let's put those in. And now we're going to shade in the Magic 8-Ball. Going right over the shadow. Right over the shading. I'm also pressing down harder where the shadow is with the pencil. Going around where the reflections are. Outline the 8. Let's make that a little darker. Okay. All right, now we've got red again, slightly darker red. I'm not going to do all the details of the tee box because I think that would be a little too much for today. So you can add as much detail as you want in yours. I'm going to add the red of the box. So it's a little darker, so I'm going to press a little harder. shading right up to the lip. The lip is gold, so we're going to leave that blank for now. We'll add the gold later. Right down to the lip here. Side, can't forget the side. Okay, now we're going to take some yellow, a little brown. Go with the yellow first. Now, gold is kind of a mixture of yellow and brown. I'm going to put that shading in there. Okay, so there's the tea box. All right, so next we're going to work on the smaller buoy. Smaller buoy, well, I don't have that exact shade of blue in my color pencil, so I'm going to have to just make do with what I have. Again, going right over the shading. Darken this a little bit. And I'm going to do the mid-range of blue here, because I already have the pencil out. Okay, I need my red again. Oh, there's a lot of red in this one. Okay, so let's add the red. Shadow here that indicates the curve. And we have red down here. Okay, so there's the shading and the coloring of my still life. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back around and define the outline a little more. So let's start up here. So I'm going to darken the outline. So that the shapes really stand out. And then we don't see our mistakes as much. Okay, let's come over here. Okay, and then a small, oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't color in the line. Oopsie. Okay, there we go. Now that's done. Much better. Okay, and there's my still life. Don't forget my name. Okay, so there's the still life that I did based on these objects. So what are you going to do? You're going to get a collection of objects together. You're going to arrange them on a surface, and you are going to render them with shade and color onto a paper. I can't wait to see what you come up with. See you next time.